And Dad, while Dad was alive, and the two Jacks, I got confused.
Yeah. Daddy was awful good to me, but I know you remember them days.
Oh, yeah.
Never forget that day Pope pulled up in the driveway down here. And went, "Have you seen my daddy?" "Oh, I can't find my daddy or my airplane, and I hope they're together," he said.
I was sitting up there, Coley that time, he took off with 0-0 weather. And they just rebuilt that right-hand motor on that Jeep. And just he pulled the gear up, that one was. He just pulled the throttle back, put her back on the runway on the belly and slid down the road. He just finished up in Ohio, he just finished one of those courses about accident.
Yeah,
And that thing slid off into the ditch. And you had to go out to left rear to get out of it. He finally woke up and jumped out of there, burning on one side, and he jumped out. Went up to the payphone, called me, I was on the fire department. He said, "I've crashed." I said, "Well, you okay?" I said, "You must be okay, you called me on the phone." He said, "Yeah, I'm okay." He said, "We don't," said, "the plane's burning, it's off the runway, it's off the home, off the ditch." I said, "I'll call him." He said, "It's no big deal." He said, so I called him, said, "Yo, the plane slid off over there." Just I went out the door and Major went, "We've got a plane crash."
yeah,
And everything.
yeah.
I said, "Oh, well." Then that afternoon, he got my plane and left.
Randy Jordan told me a similar story about Ed Phillips was sliding one into the Andrews Airport with him in it.
Well, we're gonna get started. I've got an agenda for you in each of your packets. If you want to pull that out. We'll introduce everybody in a minute, but for the sake of the recording as well. But if you guys would just look over this agenda. To approve the agenda. You want to do three because Marnie doesn't vote. Johnny doesn't vote. Hey, no, I mean. Second. All in favor? All right. So why don't we start with self, I'm Bernadette Peters, Economic Development Director for the town of Sylva, and my role is twofold. I run the Main Street program for the downtown district. I also work with businesses, property owners, and those who want to start businesses here in Sylva. Plus a plethora of other things.
I'm Paige Dowling. I'm the town manager. I've been the town manager since June of 2012. And my role is to implement, oversee the operations of the town, but also to implement the policies and procedures the Board of Commissioners wants implemented in the town. So thank you all for taking the time to participate in this. We appreciate it.
I'm there.
Well, how about a little bit more for the purposes of.
Okay, so, this was an idea that I came up with when I was running for office. To try to create a voice for people that didn't have a voice in the past that got to do nothing but pay taxes in the town of Sylva. To try to use that in a way to have successful business people bring their ideas together, see what came from trying to find better ways to develop the town of Sylva, especially in light of the situation with the 107 disastrous tear down project with it. So, in trying to do this, I've openly courted folks to see who was interested in would like to serve on this board, and the ones of you who have been appointed, expressed interest in trying to help our little town and seem to care about it as much as I do. So that's how we got to where we're at.
Well,
Pick up, Bob.
introduce yourself. I'm Jack Hennessy Jr. Everybody calls me Poe. I'm on PJ up on the corner, BP station. 1982, I've been running ever since.
Hey, Josh.
How's it going?
Come in.
Lane.
You missed the people we already have, so.
Oh.
It works out good.
And I'm Marnie Harris, and I'm the Small Business Center Director for Southwestern Community College. Been in the role 3 years now. Essentially, we provide trainings and one-on-one counseling for our small business owners. We're also a resource and referral center, so we work with startup businesses as well as existing businesses.
I'm Tim Jones, I'm Napa Forest, been in business since '89. Always getting around town here. I just want to opportunity to try to help the town grow and get its feet back under itself again and see what we can do and where we can take it in the future.
I'm Don Hensley, I'm retired. Was with the part owner in Western Builders for 52 years. Look forward to being on this street.
Josh Carpenter, part of the Southwestern Commission, working for a division called the Mountain West Partnership, and I've been in and around involved in economic development for the last 16 years in Western North Carolina. And let's see, so the role was really to help businesses grow in the region and also attract businesses. So I do that. Like I said, what we call the Mountain West Partnership, and that organization in the Southwestern Commission has been around since 2016. Look forward to working with each of you to do the work we've, decided to do and to look at for the town and look at for the region. So,
Thank you. Thanks to everyone for being here. Marnie and Josh are ex officio members, but we wanted to include some of the folks from the team that is actively working on economic development in the region. Both of these folks do that as well, but we also have, we collaborate with the County Economic Development Office as well as others. So we want to make sure that we're all mixing information and sharing so we can accomplish the goals that we want to accomplish. So, all right. So a little bit about the purpose. We've got this listed on the first page of bylaws. But our purpose here as a committee is to grow the town's tax base by attracting and retaining quality jobs, soliciting new businesses, and development compatible with the assets of the town of Sylva, promote Sylva's business image and assist in the expansion of existing companies and enhancing Sylva's overall quality of life. So for this committee, we're going to be looking at the identifying and assessing the business development opportunities that we have. We're going to recommend some policy positions on economic development to the town board and economic development director of the town board of commissioners. And prioritize business development needs and projects according to the town's priorities. We're going to conduct research and provide input on business development, program policy decisions, and consider ongoing economic development initiatives that are in process by some of our partners that I mentioned before. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And I would love to hear everyone's vision, and it doesn't have to be in any particular order of what your expectations of this committee are. I know for me personally, my vision is to generate ideas among this group, leverage relationships that we all have. That's why it's a very diverse committee. look at incentives, possibly for attracting businesses. And I've got a list of, some incentives that, you know, it's kind of hard to, you've got ordinances in place that it would take a long time to change and quite a process to change. But there are a lot of things that we can do. Some things, but, you know, we've leveraged some of these things in downtown Sylva already, like facade grant programs to improve the exterior of buildings, sign grant programs, facilitating business owner relationships and collaborating with them, using Western Carolina University. They have student interns, they have capstone projects, things that can help these businesses develop. The state has several incentives that come about that I keep in mind that we can bring to the table. What we can affect potentially is within our relationships, the county runs a lot of our permitting and code enforcement processes. And from time to time, if there's a sense of urgency, I need to contact one of them to see if they can fast track something. And then being a tier 2 county, we have advantages and opportunities that a lot of other counties don't have. I would say a lot of them are tier 2 in our region, for funding, technical assistance, things like that. Generally, it's harder for for-profit entities to get these types of funding, but in the high-level aspects of it, we can look at some of that. And then just being part of the Appalachian region for the same process that we can access funding for. And then kind of industry-specific incentives. Josh knows quite a bit about the industrial side that he brings to the table. And then a lot of our partners like Western, the Small Business Center, we've got a good relationship with Mountain BizWorks, who's a funder in the area. He does a lot of coaching and development as well. Yeah, so those are kind of some of the incentives that we can look at. I want to put that on the table. And then also the group of us who collaborate for the town of Sylva and in Jackson County, keep a database of all the properties that are for rent, for sale, and people who have expressed interest in looking for properties to rent or buy, so that we can match them together and find the right fits. So feel free to jump in if you have any, you want to share anything about your vision and expectations for this.
Can I get a copy of what you said?
Absolutely, I'll make a copy of that before you go.
Okay, very good.
All right, well, the whole thing's great.
Bring it in.
It's a concept that I hope things out. I think it stands a chance to be a very positive thing for the town. But we got the right people sitting in the right seats.
One of the things that constantly comes up when you have, you know, people come and talk since this thing started. I've had several people come and talk. And obviously, 107 projects and 175. And obviously, it is what it is, and there's not a whole lot that's going to be able to change about that. But one of the things that comes up in having a discussion with somebody is how active is the town in recruiting. And the biggest thing that comes up is places to eat. Other businesses that are moderate to larger businesses. Are we actively participating in recruitment? Are we looking, is there a process that when a piece of property comes available that would look like it would be a really good commercial piece for the future? Does the town have a avenue to be able to possibly purchase the property and then to be able to resell later on to a business or create a small industrial park or something? How active is the town in its forward thinking, recruiting and trying to hold property for businesses that can come in and want to move in? Because we got a lot of little squares. You know, if you put a bunch of them together, you can make a big square. And most of the businesses, you know, eateries or something like that are going to take an acre or so. And even more than that, are we actively recruiting or are we actively looking at some of the property? You know, a lot of people, even if the property may not be the way city limits is, I won't say chopped up, but the design of the city limits over the years, if it may be outside just touching it, is that a possibility that the town can buy that up, annex that in and have it waiting for a business to be created on either 107 or 74 or down towards Village? What are we doing for the future as far as recruitment? And it could be an eatery or a manufacturer, it could be anything. Are we involved?
That's a great question. If you want me to address the first part. then maybe-
Okay, certainly.
So before
I
I,
asked that, let me say
Yes.
this, I asked that because I have no clue what to tell people, because
That's a-
I'm not
that's a great
inside.
question. Absolutely. So prior to my role being created with the town of Sylva, the county economic development office was kind of taking the lead and all that, and they still are in a lot of ways. They have a relationship with a company called the Retail Coach, who works with all of the major brands, and has those type of relationships. So, I participate in those meetings because they have already had so much in process. It didn't make sense for me to try to take that over, especially with my limited availability from the street program. So I would say on the bigger side, that's what's happening at the county level. And then there are some small things within the group of Marnie and Josh, myself and Eli, who works with Josh, the Chamber of Commerce, and a little bit with Western Carolina with the Business College of Business. We all collaborate together to, we exchange that information, keep that database so that we're all on the same song sheet. Also, we have a document, a resource document that we created probably 2013, 2012. It's called a business resource guide. Since new businesses come in and they might start at the small business center, or they might go straight to permitting, or they might go to the health department and say, I want to start a restaurant. We all have the same list of resources for them to be able to get funding, business counseling, find a space, all that type of thing. So that's the great thing is we have a pretty big team or so that goes beyond just the city limits. And I hope that addresses the first part on it. Address the property ownership and annexation.
Okay, so as far as buying properties, we have not traditionally done that. Lack of revenue for one thing, and then the other hold up to that would be the town is not in the business of owning property. The property that the town owns that isn't utilized for a town facility is property that's been acquired through the tax foreclosure process. And then our goal is to get that back on the tax roll as quickly as possible so that it can be redeveloped. What we have done though is identified sites that we felt like would be prime for development. And then looked at, do they have water and sewer and adequate driveway or ingress, egress potential. What type of site work needs to be done to try to have those on hand when a business is interested in locating or relocating or expanding. I see, okay, and then as far as the annexation piece, in North Carolina, you can only spend taxpayer dollars if it's for the public good. So it's kind of hard to justify public good for holding something that wouldn't be inside city limits. The only property that basically the property the town owns that isn't inside city limits is the Fisher Creek watershed that's Pinnacle Park. Annexation was, and I think 2012, they changed it to where it has to be voluntary annexation. So prior to that, towns could grab property that was within maybe a mile or a mile and a half of city limits and annex it, bring it into town, make it part of the town limits and provide the same services. But the legislature stopped that in 2012, so there's only been voluntary annexation since. So a property has to want to be inside city limits to be brought into it.
Those are just questions that come up, that's, you know, I just have no clue what to answer because I don't know the law and don't know what the town's been working. But, you know, there's potential. People would really like to see some nice restaurants in here, they'd like to see some kind of, you know, scale type stores. A lot of people feel like everything's kind of geared towards downtown. We've got a lot of area that we need to focus on, I think, as far as tax base is concerned.
Mhm. Yes, most of the commercial property in Sylva is outside the downtown area. And we need to have a zoning map in here, but if you look at our city limits, most of it is commercial and it's right along the 107 or 23 corridors, and it's one parcel on each side of the road. It's very interesting how the town was developed and annexed to basically have these large commercial corridors. And that's also why the 107 project is impacting Sylva so much. Grab us.
I might add a comment or two on what we're talking about. A few things that y'all should know that you maybe don't know if you haven't been at our meeting, but the 107 project's been something was my strongest desire. That's why I ran for office to try to help with that. And it's not been real easy. In trying to figure out how to make up for the 300 grand we're losing every month, every year in tax revenue from the buildings that pour down and gone. Came up with a plan that would hopefully get us close to zero, which was, we got the county to agree to give us $100,000 a year for the next 5 years in lieu of making the ABC distribution line 50-50 instead of 64 for a 5-year period of time. So we accomplished that. County will do the reevaluation this year. And of all the properties, which will bring the town the money on taxes without going up on taxes. It'll just be the reevaluation of the property. And there's thought that that could be 100. And then we thought the development of the property out at the Evans Trucking Company and all that objective they approved what White's doing out there on Skylar Drive and a few other places, trying to relocate some of the people that were on 107, not generate another 100 grand to get us back to zero. Then the concept would be, how do we redevelop 107? Convinced DOT to say that we didn't have to wait till the project was complete to build back a new building. For example, David Shillman owns a piece of property where the Dunkin' Donuts wants to build back now. And they can, but they won't let them start until the project starts. Because they're still buying right-of-ways. They're not going to give up their construction easement until they've actually started working and they're officially through buying properties. So that's, at least we don't have to wait the full life of the project to build some isolated places where we'll release the construction easements. In light of all that, in trying to figure out how to redevelop 107 and try to do everything we can, we have to be very, very careful how involved we get with this piece or this piece or this piece or this company or this company or this company, because you don't know who's the most successful developer in convincing this company to come do this on their property. And the last thing, as a town, we would not want to be the people that caused a company to pick David Shulman over Cole Clapsack, for example. We can't be that group that's doing that. We gotta be sensitive to these people that are in the developing business that are really competing against each other to try to get these companies to come build on their place, like Chick-fil-A. We've got to be real careful with that. But an obstacle that's come up lately, that I've not figured out how to do anything about is we're gonna have a new FEMA flood map that affects the 107 project, all the way from the paper mill to UPS. It puts every piece of property that there was paid for buildings on that people could rent and put a business in without having to have flood insurance. But now a vacant lot, if anybody wants to borrow it down, they're going to pay for flood insurance. That's going to be a hindrance at best.
You have a listing of available properties out one of seven and size.
That's Bernadette does.
We do, that's through the County Economic Development Office. And they're the ones that can be helpful with this, with the retail coach, because they know, like what Johnny was saying, you know, that they're gonna know which properties, each brand has a different one. One brand may always want to be in town with a certain other brand that's not even related to them. They might need, like Chick-fil-A, as we all know, needs a double drive-through. So it's gonna impact the type of parcels, and so they've been making a list of the parcels using the GIS tool within the county to be able to match those with these certain brands. So I think that's the strategy that we'll take. It as we're coming up with ideas, then we bring them into the conversation and say, what progress have you made in this area? And if they haven't made a lot of progress and one of you has a relationship with that particular brand or that particular franchise owner who wants to come in, then we'll take it from there. Or if they already have something in process, they'll continue to take that process. Does that make sense?
How many sites are available?
That's a good question because it really depends on a lot of factors. There are multiple parcels that could fit multiple businesses. Or a bigger business. So it's kind of hard to say, okay, we can look at getting this many businesses. And then there's the other factor of something that Paige is going to share with you called an ETJ, which is adjacent to our, you're familiar with that term, but if you want to explain that.
John actually owns a large parcel in our ETJ. So that stands for extraterritorial jurisdiction. And it's an area outside Sylva's city limits, but touches city limits that we don't provide services. They don't pay town taxes, but they follow the same land use ordinances. So I'll just show a map so you all can kind of see what we're looking at. I'll give a little bit of a history lesson too. So in 1889, Sylva was founded as this octagon. Property that's been added since then. So this is going out 107. Walmart is here, Ingles is here, and this is ETJ. We've got ETJ out Savannah Drive, which is where Don owns property. And then this going up Asheville Highway. This is up Asheville Highway, but pretty much everything that is pink, red, or orange is commercial. Blue is industrial, and then yellow and this lighter shade of orange is residential. So you can see how Sylva initially was laid out to be primarily residential with the middle commercial corridor. But then what's been added since Sylva was initially incorporated has been commercial property, with the exception of this yellow here, there, and then of course you see these arms, as I'm talking, but economic arms, is sort of what I'm calling them, but just see how much of our city limits is actually commercial property.
It's interesting that you've got that much commercial within town,
Yes.
which is a little different. So one of the things that could be addressed, that Tim touched on, some of these properties that are single lots of the buildings have been torn down on about 107. There's adjoining properties that can be bought and can be annexed in to create a lot big enough to do something on. For example, the property where the old car wash used to be. Well, all that stuff in behind there, all those people have got talked into selling to one corporation, except one holdout that bailed out and stopped it. Well, now, the frontage of that has been bought by Cody's, and they're building a gas station across the street, which means the frontage is gone. So that original company that was interested in that's no longer interested in it. But there are companies that don't necessarily want or think they have to have the frontage like that. For example, that piece of property back in there, you go all the way back to the Stillwells, is big enough to put the super angles on. But if they don't have the frontage, they don't want them. But no reason it couldn't be a Target. Target don't, I mean, go look at them in Asheville, they're hidden behind a movie theater. But they find it when they go to them to do business with them. There's lots of things that we could afford to try to recreate that there, you know.
Well, that's one of the other things that comes up in a lot of conversations is what is the stumbling block for restaurants and other businesses coming in, because you've got all of these kids at restaurants. I mean, you've got a massive amount of people at Western, a huge base purchase all kinds of goods. And you've got companies, if you go to other towns where there's colleges, you know, Boone and places like that, town and college, they just come together, and all kinds of people up there in restaurants and small businesses and stuff just they thrive because of it. But there seems to be a stumbling block for even one big name restaurant to come into this town. And I think there's a perception that there's something here that's keeping them out. And I don't know what it would be, and I don't even know if there is something, but a lot of people ask that question. Why we can't, and what is the reason, the perception of all other people of why it's not here? You've got the base of a college, you've got the local base, you've got tens of thousands of people in and around Sylva. Why has Sylva not got nice restaurants? Why has Sylva not got nice small business stores and stuff like that? You know, what's the problem? And I'm like, I don't know what to say.
I wonder if anybody has ever thought about trying to research these other towns that have succeeded due to their college. What they're doing different that we're not.
Franklin and Wayne will be too good, right, John?
I have a little bit of insight on that. So a lot of these big brands are looking at, they have a research and development market strategy group, and they're looking at the metropolitan statistical data. When you look at a big city, you're gonna look at Atlanta city limits, and then they have this MSA. That's the broader area outside of city limits. Big cities have that data. Small towns don't. And so that's part of the challenge when you have a 12,000 student university outside of city limits. When they do a search to do this research, they're not going to see that. They're going to see that there's 2,700 people in the town of Sylva. Now, because we are a big tourism town, that's our industry, we have a lot more people than just the students coming. By the data, we should have 2.5 restaurants because of our population for the entire town of Sylva. And so that was key in the county bringing the retail coaching, because having those conversations with those brands rather than having, them coming and looking for that is how we're gonna attract them. So far, we've had people that are franchise owners and they want to find a franchise and they're in love with Sylva. They already understand that there's a huge population here that's outside the population of town. And so I think that's what we need to start leveraging is those relationships with those brands to get them to understand the traffic that comes through.
Yeah, it part of that. I mean, what is Franklin doing that Sylva's not? Okay, Franklin is a really good example. Murphy's a really good example. Because they're just more and more growing, and a lot of it down there is not huge name brand stuff. It's a lot of small business, a lot of small restaurants. Franklin they seem to court all the above, and they seem to be successful. What can we do that they're doing that would help us?
Well,
Because we've got the kid base.
Yeah, they've got a lot of commercial corridors that are outside of downtown. Like they want to be like our downtown, Franklin does, because I talked with quite a few people over there. They want to be just like Sylva because we have an amazing downtown. But they have more success outside of downtown because they have flat land. And, in town of Sylva, we have a steep slope ordinance, which prevents us from doing a lot of development that we would love to do. That was voted on.
Look at it and change it.
I think what you're hitting at right here is the real problem. If you look at that map, you look at that quarter out 107. And if you look at how much right of way they're taking with the road up. So even little bitty lots. Little bitty lots, there's nobody gonna look at it. You've got to have neighbor close. Somebody came to me today and says, I want a restaurant, I want it out on 107. Can you hook me up? Think so. Put properties again.
Old Lapsar's got one place in fit, that's it.
That's what I mean.
Well, that's the reason I said, can we not do something to take these small pieces and town get involved and buy enough, make big pieces and sell it? No, the town doesn't have to be in the land business. But it's, we want one place to develop, like Don said, we gotta make some laws.
And that's what the counties do is they're trying to influence the owners of those properties to buy. So they say, hey, listen, we have a brand who's interested in this parcel, but they need the one next door. They have a conversation with both property owners to see if they can get the size that they need.
Parking becomes the issue as well. You have to have so much parking for whatever particular business it is. Those restaurants require parking. That becomes a great issue in this property. Unless things are expanded outward, there's not enough as it lays right now to develop.
Well, adjoining properties that 107, two of the properties that are in the city limits can certainly be annexed in. You can buy up, you can have one piece that's in the city limits and buy up three behind it that are in the ETJ. We can certainly annex into the city if they're adjoining and it's all becomes one owner.
That's certainly going to be the only issue. Saber. Trying to get those folks in behind to sell.
That's what, I know, one developer code, they're doing something, buying up adjoining pieces, without it, one man can't do it all. And we need lots of people interested in doing that very kind of thing. Some people just got tough money to do it.
The easier to make it more out there to come.
Yeah.
Sometimes things get sticky.
Oh, yeah.
Dealing with steep slope. It's kind of. For everyone.
And, changing ordinances is a barrier that I didn't realize what a barrier it was till I got in there. It's not an easy thing to change an ordinance. So these boards before us put in bulletproof ordinances and it take us full term in office to change. So I don't know that trying to just upend the ordinance system is the proper approach. We're gonna have to do something else. There's, I'm saying we can't make some changes to it. But it's not easy. There's a whole process for, it's in the land use development, if I'm correct in saying that?
Yes.
And you're talking about having a recommendation from y'all, it goes to the planning board would have to approve it, bring it to the town board would have to approve the notion that it, then they'd have to have a public hearing, and they'd have to have a special meeting called the Board of Equalization, is that correct?
No,
What is that more called?
right on. So Board of Adjustment is not for legislative matters. But I think what you were getting at is, and if it goes against your land use plan, then or a state or another state regulation, then you can't make that amendment. So some of the ordinances are how they're probably going to be based off state law. But there are lots of things that could be looked at for business development, market needs, ideas for business opportunities, and just overall things that would help the businesses, existing or ones that wanted to
So
look
what,
at here.
what Don's saying brings a question to my mind. I didn't somehow realize the town had a steep slope ordinance. I thought it was a county ordinance, it covered the whole county.
The county has one too, but theirs is 5% less than ours.
I think so.
Ours is more restrictive than the county's.
Correct, by
The
5%.
county's done kill the county, so we're trying to do a little bit worse.
Does the variance system not work on some of these?
So a property owner can get a variance if they have a hardship that their neighbors don't have. So it almost needs to be like how the land lays or something of a topographical nature for a variance.
We couldn't have an economic development variance that would allow some of it to be used.
No. Not based off of what a variance is with land use.
Is that something that could be added as a check and balance? Because of what the intent is to develop property inside the city?
Do you have, if you've got a situation in mind, that might help me think about how to.
I'm just saying, if
Get
you
through it.
had a half acre of land, you owned an acre and a half, and the half acre, they needed more, that you could go back and you take the steep slope. Okay, we're gonna cut and fill, we need a variance on this to be able to cut this, fill this, bring it all together. And then we can get a variance on the whole piece of property, so we can make it commercial property to sell. It may already be commercial property, but you've got the steep slope guy in the back of it that's kind of destroying the whole piece of property to develop.
Well, so what I think you could do there is, and this is probably a code issue that I would need to double check on, but so looking at somebody that has subdivided land on Kings Mountain. He subdivided and it was a lot of land that was in the steep slope, but he subdivided based off of what would change the slope enough to put, the steep part in several parcels. So it didn't change where the steep area actually was, but it allowed him to sell off maybe 4 or 5 lots around it that still touch that steep part. It just put the steep part, it spread it out. So he could use the developable land, but the steep slope, just how it was drawn.
I understand that would be residential. I'm talking about basically commercial.
It's gonna be hard, to make something like that work partially.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I just wondered if that was a possibility that could be added, because commercially, it's gonna be obviously a larger piece. It's obviously more dirt sloops, steep slope, a lot of water retention. There's gonna be a lot of parts, moving parts to that.
There's some administrative flexibility with some of those things. There was an apartment complex, out 107. I think it's about a 7-acre piece, near that rock house. Before you get to Andy Shaw. An apartment complex looked at it. It was a federal housing tax credit site. Their application was to use the part that was considered steep slope as I can't think of the terminology off the top of my head, but it was like, basically they were gonna preserve that section of land as an outdoor use, in order to develop the rest of the parcel. So they were gonna leave 20% of the land undisturbed, and it would have been the steep slope, and then develop the rest of it. So I think there's some opportunity for that, and it kind of just depends on the parcel, I feel like.
And you've got to look at things like Johnny mentioned Target, they don't need road frontage. Aldi doesn't need such a big footprint. Chick-fil-A is gonna want a double drive-through. The Dunkin' Donuts may go to drive-through only, they're fine with that. So there's every brand, every business is gonna be different in their requirements, and Sylva might fit based on different things that they do. And that's kind of the database that we have to access through the retail coaches, those type of things.
So with seeing the obstacles that I've known were in front of us the whole time. Now I see why I want some successful business people sitting in this room trying to help me figure out what to do.
And you're asking the very good questions that we need to ask, because that gets us thinking outside the box. What can fit?
Yeah, it's a unique situation, the topography, the road, there's just so much to it. But again, with the base of students at Western and the base of all this tourism coming in, and even the Tuckasegee River, a lot of people realize how many people that brings. I've talked to people all over that come to Sylva, for that. I mean, we should have people lined up buy property to put restaurants stuff in. I mean, restaurants would be flocking to this place. As many people as we have here to feed. I mean, that's a target rich environment.
I mean, if there was anybody that's a true investor that wants to do a development on this property, if there's anybody that's interested in doing that, if there's one piece I could pick out of mind, it's that piece that Cody's bought from it. And I would be doing nothing. The court and broke down Bradley till I got him to convince to sell, because the rest of them were ready. Still wasn't busting. And it goes all the way back to that. So if it's big enough for a Super Angels, it's big enough for Target, it's big enough for also.
What about that piece that they're in behind? Dance off arms, forms of. Mark.
Or the side.
That belongs, there's a piece of that, part of it belongs to one Smith.
Yeah.
The other piece up there, I'm not sure who owns it. Andy Jordan's people had it for sale at one time, but they had an astronomical price on it. And then what goes deeper than that, I don't really know who owns it. The next lot behind him, what's missing, it's graded that lot. But, and that lot above the auto parts has been for sale for quite some time. When I understood the price was 3 times what. Who did Clark?
And in future meetings, I have my computer with GIS open, we can look at square footage, who owns it, purchase price.
If it's memory serves, it's pretty, piece of property on behind it, it stretches back, I think, I may be wrong, but. It goes back up underneath Senator's house.
Yeah.
Or they've had some problems. Graded that off, I don't know if you remember when they graded with that slide there. I remember years ago, yeah. Back when you about, yeah.
For all the great.
Blink of an eye.
It would be interesting to, I mean, every meeting this group has don't have to be sitting around a table like this. There wouldn't be nothing wrong with getting out together and driving around, looking at some of these properties and throwing ideas out, figuring out who you need to talk to put something together, so, you know.
would it help to have the guys in charge of the highway check that
From her thumb.
come in, bring us maps, show us the finished product, what's gonna be left.
I've got a full-blown set of plans at the house, but I'll be glad to provide for this group. I don't know why, but I've used it to try to help a few business owners.
Is that the latest, I understand?
Yeah, 10 cents is those same things.
Well, the set I've got is the most recent for right-of-way purchase. And it's got the drainage and everything that's on it. That don't mean some of that won't change. You know, it's not a set of has-beens, that's for certain.
And GIS has been updated, right? So
Yeah.
you can actually see those lines, we can put those filters.
Sometimes, like I said, blueprints I have, it's okay looking at them. I mean, if you're an engineer, you can figure out most of what you're looking at, but when you look at one of these things on the computer screen, especially like a bigger iPad that you can blow up, you can really tell what you're looking at then. But an old hand like Don looking at some blueprints, he'd decipher that in just a few minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to ask one more question. I'll get off that subject of, the ordinance issue. And I know the ordinance is put in, the county administrators, steep slope and all that. They've got setback rules, they've got all this stuff. Do you have dialogue with them? That let's put a group together to revisit this. You know, some of these are good, some of these need to stay intact, but I think some of these needs to have some logic attached to them. And then we need to revisit these, and if the town and the county can get together and revisit these, we might be able to have some changes.
Yes, so between 2019 and 2021, when we knew 107 was happening, the legislature had mandated that all towns update their land use plans. So we took that opportunity because it had been really since 1998 when we first did our zoning ordinance, to really look at them, and we kind of went through an overhaul and made lots of changes to what we felt like was more friendly and logical for, well, going through every district, but we took a really close look at the business district because we knew that that's where we were going to have our redevelopment. So I think a lot of things are better than they were when zoning first went into place, because there have been so many changes with the types of businesses. I mean, cars are larger, so parking spaces are different, drive-throughs are different than they were in the late 90s.
And Dan Schaefer did.
So throwing this out in there as part of that same conversation. Many years ago, the county had to have their very first erosion control ordinance. And I was appointed by the county commissioners to chair that committee. And there was a group of people on there, and So I was the only one that was had the state background. There was a couple of contractors on there, and a couple of people that were very much environmentalists. That group wanted our county rules to be at least 50 times more stringent than state law. And it took me the entire time we were there, but I finally convinced the group that our county ordinance did not need to be any stronger or any more restrictive than state law. Anything we're doing there is just hindering our county. And so it's what we did. Our ordinance for erosion control purposes mimics state law. Some better state ordinance saying that the towns is more restrictive than the counties. Maybe that is something we need to look at to see if mimicking the county is our best option rather than trying to make it more harder to do, whatever the correct word is there.
But more friendly to be able to operate.
Yeah.
I have that's something a prior board looked at, and we had somebody from the state come and map it for us. So I have I'll bring it to one of our next meetings, but showing with the steep slope rule of what it is, what properties can still be developed and what sections of what properties can be developed. And it's like this, it just shows it in a 3-tone color. And then there's another one that if we relaxed at 5%, what it would show. So I'll bring those.
Okay. Good.
But those are discussions we've had and done
So
the research on it that wouldn't have changed other than the properties that have been regraded.
Doing or not?
They decided not to move forward with it.
I'm just saying, 5 years down the road, this situation comes into play. If we had done something, it would be okay. Since we didn't do something, it's lack of Congress thing. So I'm just saying, looking into it to be able to make it, you still gotta have a lot of the stuff. You don't wanna make it unsafe. You don't wanna make it a habit. You don't wanna make it a possibility for a slide or a bad engineered wall, something like that. But anything that can be used in the future purposes that would be within proper bounds, at least, or relaxing it now.
Yes, and what I'm saying is I think a lot of that was relaxed in 2021 when we did our new ordinance and land use plan. So, but yes, if there's something that's a hindrance like that, we want to address it. But I think we've looked at a lot of that to try to fix what had not been fixed for a while or had been fixed piecemeal, like situation by situation, to try to look at what was coming.
Got a couple thoughts and comments I'd like to add to the conversation. So first, hearing a lot of good discussion between you all to kind of help understand the ordinance situation, maybe some hindrances and hurdles, which is obviously, important and just in terms of creating jobs and kind of creating an investment. So I applaud you for that. Secondarily, what I also hear is that the town is doing all the right things to sort of help identify properties. I think that's the first step in any kind of a discussion around this topic of trying to help businesses locate. There's I work with a lot of developers and have done so for a long time, and not that I'm any expert in any degree, but the first thing that they typically ask for is a piece of real estate. How's that piece of real estate fit into my plan? It's pretty obvious. I mean, there's a lot of folks around the table here who've got a lot more experience than I do. But the idea is that, economic development happens in a place. It happens locally, it happens in the town. I work regionally, and then there's other folks that work statewide and federally, and all economic development, though, is about some place and some business going to create jobs. And helping that business owner figure out how to do that, lots of times comes back to the infrastructure. So you all identifying pieces of property that have water, sewer, power, ingress, egress, and having all the things that you might need to be able to produce jobs and create business is really the first step. There's other steps like workforce and incentives and other things we haven't talked about, that are related to it. But at the end of the day, it's really about a piece of property. And so I think you're going about it the right way. What I would say that I haven't heard around the table, and this might go back to your question earlier, about what we're not maybe doing and kind of how we can do better is, around really just creating some marketing. I think at the end of the day, lots of times what happens is when developers start to look, especially now, that they look electronically. They don't make as many visits initially as they do or did in the past. You know, a lot of people I work with, before they even talk to a community, they've went and seen what they have to kind of project themselves or how they market themselves online and other ways electronically. So, you know, they let their fingers kind of do the walking. And so that means looking at population and, you know, average income in a place or how many students you have versus how many permanent residents and those kinds of things. So most of the time I've found that a lot of these, ladies and gentlemen, know your communities better than you do. Because they've actually figured, you know, they've, at least from the numbers perspective, what they don't have typically is kind of the color and how you are culturally and those kinds of things. So they see those numbers and they make, you know, an assessment based solely on that. And to Bernadette's point earlier, unfortunately, Sylva, Jackson County is not within a place in which you can find easy numbers. You know, finding numbers through census data and others is pretty difficult, actually. When you look at like, because you're not part of an MSA or a metropolitan statistical area. And so some of those numbers aren't as easy to get to for your community. So a couple of things. One, my organization through Southwestern Commission can help you with that data. We actually have access to data that kind of can help you show what numbers actually are available, what your population looks like in terms of daytime and nighttime and all these other things, and talking about, you know, income and you know, relative economic statistics. That's pretty easy. We can get to those. And we do that for all the communities here in Western North Carolina. So there's that. We can help you with the data piece and help you kind of tell your story. And so that's what I would suggest is Bernadette early on brought up incentives, and incentives in my world are, you know, what we can do to help a business do something that they wouldn't do otherwise. It's just like when I've got 3 children. And so I can incentivize them. I can give them a carrot to do something. You know, if you do your homework, then we might have a snack after dinner, or, you know, dessert, something like that's an incentive, or a carrot, or a stick. Yeah. So the carrot and the stick discussion. So, the other part of it, though, I think you're kind of missing a little bit is the value proposition. So there's a lot of things you listed off that were kind of incentives in my mind, really more about your value proposition. Like, what are you providing to a business that's kind of intrinsic and not, maybe it's a real thing. Maybe it's like, you know, faster permitting process or something, but how do you define, you know, why is it that I'm going to locate here versus somewhere else? What is it you're doing as a community that helps me be more successful? And that's not always an incentive. It's not always cash, or it's not always, you know, a reduced permit cost or something. Do that. But the point is, there's kind of a value proposition I think you should try to frame out and then market. And then part of that value proposition is incentives. You know, here's the things we can kind of help you do above and beyond, because honestly, incentives, you know, it's from North Carolina's perspective, it has to be competitive. There's three metrics that kind of go along for all incentives. It's jobs, new investment, and average wages that are associated with those jobs. And so all, you know, kind of North Carolina incentives are based on those 3 factors. And any business that gets them they're held to those standards. Now, North Carolina's a lot different than other states. They don't give money up front, and they work off performance-based measures. So in other words, business creates jobs, it then gets an incentive feedback. They don't do it on the front end.
So I've had a thought or two in my mind for a long time about some kind of incentive that the town or the county could do to be some incentive for people to come in here to create a new business that provides a certain number of jobs.
Sure.
And based on that number of jobs, we could do this, or this for them. You know, even if it's, you know, a reduced tax rate, no taxes for the first year, or free water and sewer, or something, you know.
Yeah.
So,
No, I,
based on the number of jobs.
yes, sir. No, that's exactly how the state system works and the local, so that flows locally too. So counties are, they're under state law, you guys are as well. So in North Carolina, just, kind of a blanket statement that we treat all taxpayers the same. In other words, you can't say to one versus the other that you get, 50 cent per $100 value and you get a 45 cent per $100 value because you created jobs. That's what you can't do. That doesn't mean that you treat them both the same January 1, and then when they pay their taxes in, July or December, that what happens is once they've done and they pay their taxes, you take some of that tax money and give it back to another one for creating jobs. It's basically an economic development grant at that point. You said based on the number of jobs you've created, I'm going to give you a certain amount of taxes back. Now, it sounds like a refund, and we have to be strategic about how we say things, but basically set up an economic development grant. And so I've helped Graham County write that type of policy, helped Macon County do some of the same thing in several other communities. It's essentially what you just said. You line out, you say, over 100 jobs, you get this type of reduction, you pay 85%, or it's based on 85% of taxes, and it lines down after.
So coming from Southwestern, is there a possibility that there might be some seed money grant for the town to start an operation like that?
Well, to help write policy and to do,
That gets some starting up money, to have that money to give back. Right now, we're 300 grand in the hole,
okay,
Not
not for the incentive part, but certainly we can help you write policy. That's not, I don't mind helping you do that. We can look at that pretty easily. What I always say is, remember that the reason it's based on, so back up just a minute, like I said before, new jobs, new investments, and wages are the three metrics. So, and I don't mean to be elementary or tell you something that you already knew, but the reason the state looks at new jobs and wages, you might want to take a guess. Taxes. Yeah, so taxes, new jobs times new average wages equals income taxes for the state of North Carolina. Now, new investment, where does the town make their money?
property tax.
Property taxes, yes, sir. So new investment equals new money for you. So that's why you can't base it on like what they've already invested in your town, but you can base this sort of incentive on what they haven't invested. That's not money that you got in your budget right now. So technically, you don't ever actually spend money that you've collected. You're spending money that you haven't collected yet. Does that make sense?
What they do.
Yeah, with the new, so let's say Eagles came in and built, $30 million facility. And the value of the property today is 1.5 million. And then when they make their investments in 5 years totally, or whatever, 2 years, whatever it takes them to build a facility, your tax value goes up. You can take that new tax value, and then how much you can calculate based on your current tax rate, how much that's going to make in new tax revenue, and give them a portion of that. Now, that's not money you have in your budget today. So it's really not money that you're kind of giving up, so to speak. You actually, in most communities, don't ever give up more than 100% of their of what they're going to collect in the future. So most incentive policies that I work on, they cap at about 85 or 90%. So you're actually never out more money than you put into the deal.
So basically,
You're always
you keep 20%.
You keep, which is actually more money than you had before.
Yeah.
Well, the other piece of it that I'm sure Josh has seen, like when he talks about the value proposition. I think about Franklin and how they had trouble recruiting businesses because there wasn't the workforce there. And so they did a value proposition, a video campaign before really social media was flying like it is today, about the quality of life there to recruit people to come live there. Now, they have lots of flat land that they can develop housing. That's the challenge that we have is when you bring in new businesses, you have to house those employees. we have this beautiful thing called the university, and we can turn employees, low-level employees, cashiers and food and beverage pretty easily, because they're all housed at Western. And when I owned a restaurant, we would usually keep a student maybe 1 to 2 years after graduation. That's not happening because they have no place to live. So that's something we need to keep in the back of our minds as we're working through this, is the housing. Which hopefully, as some of these projects are happening in neighboring areas, that's something that we can leverage, because they will have a place to live in 3 years when that project is completed. It's not in Sylva, but we have to have that nearby. Otherwise, the potential property being developed, they'll just walk away.
Do you know if Jackson County has a industrial developer, economic development policy or ordinance? It's sort of like that, what, John?
I don't know, but I'll ask her.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I'm thinking that they do. And what I would say is, whatever kind of thing we come up with, if that's what you all want to do, is it mimics or it looks similar, and is in addition to that county policy. So in other words, they located in the town limits you've got, and that's for additional money.
And you know, if there's something in place somewhere else that we can mimic, if there's a brand new idea here, or something brand new that dreamed up in this room. But we need to be doing something. It ain't happening right now.
Are we actively recruiting? Are we actively going out? Are we actively, are we being proactive? Okay, reactive is okay, or are we being proactive? Are we not waiting on those guys to get on the computer and look at what Sylva looks like and then make a decision? Are we sending stuff to them? Are we courting them to come in? Are we asking them to give us a second look? Look outside what you see just in Sylva.
You know, here's a thought. I've been involved in a few campaigns, and I've seen us do this during campaigns. There's no reason why we couldn't run a campaign for the town of Sylva. And there's no reason we couldn't make a drone video and commercial we send out to target.
Yeah.
I mean, do it.
It's easy and it's cheap. I mean,
How much money would we spend doing that?
technology is cheap. That's the way people get their knowledge or information.
And we can certainly invite to one of our meetings, invite Tiffany and the retail coach to talk about the tools that they would need, that we could offer as a group to be able to further incentivize those conversations they're having with big brands.
Like a brochure that we send all of them. Something to quarter.
Well, that's how,
Say, come, let's give us a look.
in my business, they send me stuff to court to sell their product. I mean, they send me all kinds of great products. It costs them nothing to, they produce it, but it costs them nothing to send it out. They're sending it to tens of thousands of people across the country.
Could be nothing more than just the right message to get out to the right people.
Well, you're not gonna find a prettier place than that. You're not gonna find a place that's got the workforce at Western. You're not gonna find a place that's got people coming in here cruising 12 months out of the year. There's so much going for us. Gotta produce that type of message, put it out there.
Yeah, that would be my suggestion, that you need to be able to tell your own story.
Yeah.
Be able to, people are gonna say it for you anyway.
So I think there's been a lot of food for thought for people to water around in for some period of time and come back and talk about it some more. See if we can actually try to implement something. What's next on the agenda?
Well, we want to talk about our scheduled meetings for the year. And when we want to do those and how often, and then the officers. The last two ones we talked about. So as far as meetings, I think you had originally suggested, Johnny, that one maybe quarterly.
Well, I thought quarterly was okay for us to suggest. But if this group wanted to meet more frequently, and try to be more proactive about what we're trying to come up with some way to do something, to try to help where we're at, maybe even more often, maybe once a month for a little while. But I think y'all can certainly set that schedule how y'all want to meet and when you want to meet.
How often would you all like to meet?
I sound like quarterly.
I was gonna say 3 times a year.
Well, we need a purpose to meet. Okay, we don't just need to meet. We need you to give us, okay, I know this, or give us your ideas. We can meet anytime. If you've got a project going on, we need to be involved. Since we really have no statutory authority, we're a committee that you generally will have to guide us and say, okay, we've got this coming up. What do you think? Because these people, everybody here is looking at it from a totally different aspect of what inside the town is at. And we're gonna give you opinions on everything from the engineering aspects, because you got a lot of great people here that know a lot about business. And they're gonna be on the side basically that's gonna help the developers and gonna help people come in, these new projects. You sit and talk to this group and you bring the others in, you're gonna get more ideas than you know what to do with. We need projects, we need reasons. And if you need us to meet, bounce stuff off with us, bounce stuff off of us, we can meet at any time, you know.
Oh,
We can even start with just the next meeting, and I have enough notes coming from the minutes and things that I need to follow up on Tiffany and retail coach, where we can start to maybe work on that incentive plan. If we get that information from Jackson County, work on that marketing program. You know, get them to kind of share with us, give us a synopsis of where they are and what they need as well. It would have been nice to have them at the table, but having Josh and Marnie kind of bring a little bit of that perspective, they just have so much going on. They can.
no, there's a thought that you come up with a grand idea about something, so well, I'm gonna bring that up at our next meeting. And 3 months have went by and, hey, you forgot what she's gonna talk about.
Yeah. You can call a meeting anytime if there's, you know, some stuff for us to revisit.
I see nothing wrong with initially trying to meet once a month. And then if you see that that's too often, or if you think that's what you want to continue, you can always change it. You can start right now with quarterly and decide y'all want to call it extra meeting in between.
I think it would be easier to set it for the year, monthly, cancel meetings if we don't have it.
Because we have nothing to do, there's no use just coming
Absolutely.
around and talking.
Right.
And
We cancel planning board meetings all the time if there's nothing
Yeah.
to put on the agenda for them to do. But, I mean, and y'all can certainly have input throughout the month to call Bernadette and say, I'd like to put this on our agenda for our next meeting, let's talk about this, you know. Just pick up the phone, call City Hall, talk to her, she'll take care of it, you know. But I think wandering around with an idea that's got old in your head before you got to mention it's not really helping somebody.
You said, we don't.
Why don't we start with February, looking at quarterly to start with, and then we can, because that's really only missing 1 month. And then we ramp it up. We need more. And
Because this is a brand new committee. And so,
we want to be conscious of everybody's time and make it worthwhile.
We don't get to the corporate side, and we're having meetings to plan the next meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and two, let's say you get somebody interested in something and you leave a couple of people to come and go out to the site with them and talk to them. It's nothing but a phone call.
And y'all can be that proactive as well, yeah. You're official members of the Business Development Board. If somebody got a question or wants you to show them something, show
I just asked that you would contact
They
me.
give us some details.
first.
Texas in case some
them.
stuff.
Get you some credentials. Some flash.
Just, I would just ask that
Yeah.
before you guys go do that, just contact me so that I can let you know. So there's a lot of confidentiality in the things the county's doing. And I'll give you an example. So they've been working with Chick-fil-A corporate and, we've been working with a franchise owner out of Franklin, They've been setting up here selling sandwiches out of a truck demo. What we ran into is there is a franchise owner that owns the rights to supposedly owns the rights to all of Jackson County, affiliated with the university. Now, typically today, by today's standards, those types of franchise owners only work with the company that runs the food services, the outsourced company within that, which would be Aramark for us. This person has been holding on to those rights to gift to his heirs, okay, and not developing Chick-fil-A. He doesn't even live in North Carolina anymore. He lives in Tennessee. So they've been inching closer to getting the information that they need, because even Chick-fil-A is confused about this, right? So we can't promise something to the Franklin franchise owner without knowing how we're gonna navigate this part of it. And so those are the weird situations that we're dealing with. And that's probably the craziest of all, I would say, on our table, right? That's a good example. So just, if you have a relationship or an idea or whatever, just check in and I'll make sure that, they don't already have some restriction on that or confidentiality on that. Or if they do and they're only on this process and you have an amazing relationship, they would say, hey, go ahead and run with it. Because we haven't made that much progress.
So looking at February for our
Would be a
next
good
meeting.
next meeting, and then we can, at that meeting, kind of look at the frequency from
I'm gonna be at a conference the first week.
Okay. Yeah.
We did it first. Yeah, because that's
No, that's here in January.
February
10th. You're fine. I was confused.
I was confused.
You say February 10th?
Well, the week of the 10th, which day?
Thursdays are good.
February 13th.
That's fine.
13th.
13th, which is Thursday. At 1.
That don't hit a regular board meeting.
It's the day of a board meeting.
Don't hear all that.
Oh, 1 to 7, right?
Well, you look at it one way, get it all done at one time.
Yeah.
Come back.
You get paid to be honest, you gotta do the big job.
Tell you what, I'll give you my. I know.
So Johnny, is that gonna be too comfortable?
Well, I mean, to be honest, it's not. It's absolutely essential that I'm here anyway. This group needs to do their thing. I'll be glad to be here and help you where I can. Don't really need to operate around my schedule.
I think you're important to it.
What else you got there?
Yeah.
Do you want to go for another day though?
No, that's fine.
February
We
what?
could do the.
That's just a long day
Thursday,
in City Hall.
or Thursday, better than that, or. I think it is important that you're here since you're.
Well, I mean, once I've basically reserved the day for town business, I might as well just get it all over at once. So.
Okay, so the 13th, 1:00.
February,
Yes.
And I'll type up the minutes and send them out to you guys and get them to the other two.
And are we calling this the Sylva Economic Development?
Advisory.
Yeah. See that?
Now we got to elect the chairman and vice chairman, right? And all the people that can vote on that are the three members that are here, is that correct? Are they the
You're
only people
chairman and
that
each
can,
vice
are
chairman.
they the only people that can nominate?
Yes, and I think that if, couldn't we wait till next one? With everybody here?
Vote once in 8 years.
You can do that.
That's what the Main Street Board.
I nominate Donald Green, he's not here. I'll go by, get up on the lip, say, guess what you are?
I thought in my mind is that, at least one of you that's serving here a 1-year term would be a good first chairman. And the vice chair should be one of the people with a 3-year term, step in as chairman in a year. That makes sense?
So that would be Don and Jack of 1 year.
Oh,
That ain't gonna fly.
how you gonna be chairman? You don't do it.
Don, more senior than I am. He knows more about what's going on.
I don't know about that.
He's wiser than I am.
Are you willing?
Yeah, I'll do it from here.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a nomination for the chairman. Do we have a motion that nominations cease? Good. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Don Hensley's the chairman. We need a vice chair.
Wanted that to be a 3-year term person.
I'd rather that be somebody that's not rotating off at the same time our chairman.
I know you can run a good committee meeting.
I know, but I don't want nobody having a conflict lead down here.
I don't-
When you're vice, you just step in.
There was one discussion about, him absolutely is a very suitable chairman for this board. But is it any kind of even the appearance of a conflict with his brother being a town board commissioner?
I don't think so. I mean, there's not anything going to happen that would create a conflict in regards to a financial conflict.
Right.
That's my opinion, but if somebody feels
And if
strange
this
about.
board is coming, is sending its chairman to make a presentation to the town board, it'd be Don, it wouldn't be you coming to make a presentation. to
Yeah, but
Don.
you want to make the vice chairman move up next year.
Well, that's not a have to thing.
Okay.
Like Don Green the chairman next year if you want to.
That's right, that's right.
So I'm fine with that. If you're fine with it with your family.
Is the town fine with it and people fine with the fact, I don't want to cause him no issue. And I don't want to cause the town no issue.
I can't see how it would be an issue, but if you're worried about it,
That would be an issue.
yeah.
First, they gotta get sober good. I'm gonna fool around and not get free coffee at PJ's anymore.
You're good, but if she's a burnt pumpkin thing.
I don't have a problem with it. I do. But I don't want the rest of the world to have a problem with it. You know.
Politics of it.
I mean. Obviously, Mark's my brothers. I have 2 businesses with Eric. I mean. Small town, everybody has connections.
Sure we do.
Everywhere you look.
I have connections.
It's really hard to keep them all separate because.
There's nobody on this committee that somebody on the town board don't do business with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's gonna be.
And there's really no
Right.
business here that the town itself don't do business with.
I don't want that to be an issue.
It won't be. Not unless we spend over $60,000 in 1 year, it went straight in your pocket.
Ain't none of it goes by.
Well, that's a rule for board members,
Okay.
not for the committee members.
If you think it's okay,
I don't have any reservations about it. I think you'll be an excellent vice chair.
Our voter left.
if it becomes an issue, please let me know. I have no problem stepping sideways you know, how that.
And if Mark feels weird about it. That's-
Well, Mark, I can tell you does feel weird about it. He's worried about that. We've talked about it many times. He even recused himself from voting on it in the regular board meeting.
Yeah, that wasn't a bad idea.
Appearance wise, it was good. But I can tell you, I don't see a problem with it. I don't even see the perception of being a problem with it. But it makes Mark uncomfortable.
Here's the other thing, on the planning, we have planning board members that are married to town board members. And some of them were on the planning board before their spouse was elected. But that's not been an issue.
Do you think it's,
You're not gonna marry Mark, right?
no? I'm trying to get rid of it.
I used to marry to someone.
Well, you know, I'm gonna be the same either way, whether I'm a board member, or vice chair, or whatever. You get the same thing out of me.
Would anybody like to nominate Tim Jones to be vice chair?
Thank you, Don.
Yeah. You didn't hear him vote, though.
You say yes.
Say aye.
He's scared. He's scared now.
I guess you want to make a nomination or make a motion that nomination cease for vice chair.
Yeah, I like it, man.
Did you know it was you?
No,
Oh. All in favor of Tim Jones being the vice chair? Raise your hand. Motion carries. Business is done. Now,
Did we,
Mr. Chairman.
back up, do we have a meeting set after February? Or, so, we're gonna do like a year invite thing?
You know, it would be easier if we had if we had them set out for a year. To have the town board schedule them all at once instead of.
We've created a year schedule.
Won't you say bi-monthly?
Okay,
February, we have 6.
April.
We could add that extra month in there, whatever, and it could be.
So February, April.
It would be
6 May.
April 17th.
Unless we need more, I mean, these situations.
I think that's a good compromise.
April,
I got like sitting down.
Wait, we're doing it wrong.
it's the second Thursday of February.
They're all have to be here.
So that would be April 10th. Okay. So June 12th, June 12th. August 17th. October 9th. December 11th. And I'll type that up.
You'll send that out.
Yeah, I'll send it to you guys.
Full-time board has to approve those meeting dates and that schedule, and then we're cut loose to do whatever we want.
Anything else before we close?
Chairman, that's for adjourn. Your motion with adjourn.
thank you all,
Okay.
appreciate it.
This is a great thing.
What do you think about all this stuff?
Really. It's got potential.
Oh. Oh, thank you for being willing to do it.
Yeah.
All of it.
Y'all got the same little boat together.
It's shame that you look on both sides of it, county
Yeah.
are doing so well. That.
Well, Cherokee County be solid, so more traffic down there. And they just developed in every direction, Macon County developed in every direction. Haywood